It's your buddy Sid Rosenberg, and yeah, I'm famous. But guess what? So is my guy Mike. I love him. And his son Michael at Genesis of Brooklyn. This is not your typical dealership. Trust me, I've been there. It's a gorgeous place. The service, legendary. Brooklyn family values, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Free valet pickup up to 25 miles. Current year Genesis loaners. 3 years of maintenance included. Transparent, efficient, respectful. The best luxury service around. Genesis of Brooklyn. These are my guys, Mike and Mike. More luxury, less money.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, September 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Another beautiful day on the way. Sunshine, high 72. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 60. And then tomorrow it's going to be cloudy. There's a chance of a pop-up shower, but more likely just a cloudy day, the high 69. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it's 56 and clear in Larchmont up in Westchester County, 53 and clear in Clark over in New Jersey, and it's 56 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Are LIRR workers about to walk off the job? Curtis Sliwa unveils his first campaign commercial. Cops investigate a deadly Queens house fire as a murder scene. Students are finding inventive ways around the school cell phone ban. And a creep in Midtown scamming people out of cash for fake rentals. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Unions representing half of LIRR workforce threatening to go on strike 9 days now unless the MTA agrees to their demands for raises. The unions representing more than almost 4,000 LIRR workers, including engineers, ticket workers, claim higher wages are overdue because they have not seen a raise in 3 years. And they say their raises have not kept up with the cost of living. But it's interesting this time. Sometimes you get riders who are on the side of the workers and of the unionized workers. This time it was hard to find anybody who rides the LIRR who said, yeah, go on strike, or yeah, give them more money.
I don't have sympathy for the union workers. I think they're paid very well.
I know that they deserve more.
A pull for the unions, but at the same time, it's like everybody's struggling right now.
The MTA says the LIRR already has the highest paid railroad workforce in the nation, and the unions are being totally unreasonable. So LIRR engineers earn an average of $160,000 a year with overtime. That's according to the MTA. The unions have already turned down a 9.5% raise over the next 3 years, which also riders are a little concerned about.
When you think about 9% over the course of a few years, I think that's pretty reasonable. So I would hate to see a strike.
Yeah, a lot of people probably listening to me right now who would overjoyed by a 9.5% raise. MTA Chair and CEO Jano Lieber says they are already making contingency plans in case this strike happens. They're talking about shuttle buses. I mean, it'll be a total nightmare because that's what it was the last time there was a strike.
We have to stick up for the riders, and riders are a little frustrated seeing all this overtime and triple wages.
Now, if you're scratching your head saying, when was the last time these workers went on strike? You have to go back like 30 years. So there is everybody waiting for the potential fallout of the nation's busiest commuter railroad to go on strike. You have local lawmakers in Nassau and Suffolk County who are saying, let's do something. Let's bring a mediator in. Let's try to get this done before these workers walk off the job.
Perhaps it's time for the governor to reach out to the president and ask for a mediator to be appointed to avert the strike that's really on the horizon.
Okay, so this is what we know. The unions plan to announce the results of their membership vote on next Monday, which would leave just 3 days until the September 8th 18th deadline to avert a strike. Of course, we'll continue to follow the story, and as more details come into us, we will pass them on to you. Over to Queens. 2 people are dead after a house fire there, and the reports say that the elderly victims appear to have been targeted.
Flames were first spotted around 3:30 Monday afternoon at the home on 254th Street near 87th Drive in Belrose, Queens. The bodies of a 77-year-old man and a 78-year-old woman were found inside. Channel 7 reporting that the man was found tied to a pole in the basement. The woman was reportedly found on the first floor. Detectives combed the neighborhood seeking video that might help their investigation. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 5:04. Cops searching for a man who stabbed a 23-year-old on an MTA bus in the Fordham section of the Bronx. It happened on a BX9 bus. Cops say the victim got off the bus at East Kingbridge Road, right near East Fordham Road, when the attacker stabbed him multiple times in the back and then ran off. The victim taken to the hospital, thankfully going to be okay. Riders rightfully a little freaked out.
It's dangerous, and you still got a lot of people taking the transportation that shouldn't be on transportation.
Yeah, of course people going to feel unsafe. I feel unsafe. Like, you ain't never going to feel safe here. That's the sad part.
Police say that attacker ran off, last seen, well, I'll give you a description. It doesn't really matter. But riders say, let's hope the NYPD catches up with this guy right away.
Stay alert and pay attention to your surroundings, because you just never know.
Now, so far we have not gotten a picture of this individual. I imagine that's just a matter of time till, if they don't catch up with this person, we'll have a picture of him to pass around. 5:05 out to New Jersey. Did you see this huge crack has formed in a Woodbridge, New Jersey road, and the town has no idea why. The damage impacting drivers. This is along Smith Street between Highland Avenue and Convery Boulevard, right near the border of Woodbridge and Perth Amboy. So one of the neighbors along this path, a couple of people, I should say, were evacuated when they first saw this crack at the end of last week because they were worried maybe there was more to it and that the homes would be impacted as well. So this mom, who's got 4 kids, was told on Thursday, you better get to a hotel, and they gave her a hotel room to get out of the way just to make sure that everything's going to be okay.
It's like something that comes out of a movie. We had to leave that, they were afraid something's going to happen to a house. With 4 kids, it wasn't a good experience.
Okay, so that crack is still there. They don't know why. The Woodbridge mayor says the police department first noticed the long crack at the end of last week. The town has crews on location since, trying to get to the bottom of what caused it. And it's closed until further notice, till they fix what's wrong.
It's very serious. That road is going to take a long time to be replaced. That's our next biggest priority. At some point, people will figure out what happened and why it happened, but we have to make sure people are safe first and foremost.
Okay, so an emergency detour is up today. Impacted families that were chased out of their homes last week are back home because they don't think it's going to do anything to the houses there. 18 families in all were evacuated to a hotel over the weekend, but the fix, that has not been done, maybe days or even weeks away. WABC News Time 5:08. President Trump has lost a bid to overturn a verdict here in New York, ordering him to pay writer E. Jean Carroll over $83 million in a defamation case.
3 judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. The judges found Trump failed to identify any grounds that would warrant reconsidering the prior holding on presidential immunity. It comes after lawyers for the president had signaled last week they will ask the Supreme Court to overturn a separate civil suit that was filed by Carroll against Trump, in which she was given $5 million. Both cases were related to Trump being accused of defamation against Carroll when he denied her claim that he raped her in the 1990s in New York City. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Now, President Trump going to be here, right? 8:30 this morning, live with Sid on Sid and Friends in the morning. I'm going to go over everything, I'm sure. The mayoral race, every topic you can think of. So make sure you're here at 8:30 this morning when President Trump sits down with Sid for an interview. 5:09. Homeland Security announcing an immigration operation in Chicago. The Homeland Secretary, Kristi Noem, confirming the operation. She didn't want to get into a whole lot of details
details, though.
I never talk about security operations. I don't want to ever do anything that would jeopardize our law enforcement as they're out there on the ground making sure they're keeping people safe.
DHS says Operation Midway Blitz will target what they say criminal illegal aliens who flock to Chicago and Illinois. The post on social media goes on to say the operation is in honor of an Illinois woman who was killed in a drunk driving hit-and-run wreck allegedly caused by what they call a criminal illegal alien.
We can run as many operations every single day as we need to keep America safe. So nothing's on hold. Everything is full speed ahead.
The operation follows days of President Trump's warnings that he wants to clean up the city's crime problem. Supreme Court blocking a federal judge's ruling that restricted the way ICE agents conduct immigration operations in Los Angeles. President Trump's borders are. Tom Homan applauding this decision.
It's the right call, and I'm glad they found that way because these men and women, ICE and Border Patrol, they're well trained. They know exactly what they're doing. They follow the law.
The federal officers had been restricted from stopping people based on their race or ethnicity or if they speak Spanish. The court's decision was in response to an emergency request filed by the Trump administration. It puts on hold the ruling from the Biden-appointed judge.
I don't know why politicians want to push back against immigration enforcement. It's like right now there's this whole firestorm over ICE operations. We're doing the same thing we've done for the 40 years I've been around.
And it was Tom Homan who was giving this interview yesterday. He says there's a reason ICE is targeting certain cities.
Where do we send, firemen? We send firemen to the biggest fires, and we're going to send agents to the biggest problem, which are sanctuary cities, because we know we have a problem.
And he says he's glad the Supreme Court stepped in.
At least once a week, I see some decision from some radical judge who simply doesn't want the Trump administration to enforce immigration law. Well, coming out, they're going to enforce the law. They can protest all they want. They have the First Amendment rights. But if they cross that line, turning from protester to a criminal, there's zero tolerance. You will be arrested and prosecuted by the federal law enforcement.
Holman says he can't understand why a governor or mayor wouldn't want to protect the people of their city. And he says that's why they're going in to protect those people. 512. President Trump speaking out about last month's deadly stabbing of a Ukrainian refugee on a Charlotte, North Carolina light rail train. This took place on August 29.
There are evil people. We're all people of religion, but there are evil people, and we have to confront that. I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed.
Now, new video release shows the moments before 23-year-old Irina Zaratuska was stabbed to death by a man sitting behind her. The president called the man a lunatic and said, we have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, he says, we don't have a country. Zaratuska was stabbed 3 times, including at least once in her neck.
Madman, a lunatic, just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
Yeah, it was a pretty horrible video. The man arrested, charged with first-degree murder. Jeffrey Epstein's estate has started to hand over files to members of Congress now.
This comes after the House Oversight Committee issued a subpoena last month. On social media, Democrats on the committee posted the first documents, including the infamous birthday greeting from President Trump to Epstein that included the outline of a nude woman. Trump called the greeting a fake thing when asked about it by the Wall Street Journal. Other documents requested by the committee include Epstein's contact lists and financial statements. I'm Chris Coraggio.
5:13, let's go down to Florida. Jury selection moving forward in the trial of the alleged would-be President Trump assassin Ryan Ruth in a Fort Pierce federal courtroom.
Judge Eileen Cannon is allowing Ruth to represent himself, but his court-appointed lawyers are on standby. While 3 groups of 60 potential jurors were gathering this morning, Ruth was running by the judge questions he wanted to ask them about. They included their views on the war in Gaza and talk of the U.S. acquiring Greenland. Cannon said those questions were irrelevant and off base. According to those in the courtroom, most of the questions submitted by prosecutors were approved, but the judge called others politically charged and said they had no relevance in the case. Ruth's accused of attempting to assassinate then-presidential candidate Trump at his West Palm Beach golf course last September. I'm Joel Malkin.
This Ruth guy, just a little bit off of his rocker. One of the questions he wanted to ask jury members yesterday was, if you saw a turtle in the middle of the road, would you stop to take it off the road or would you keep on driving? And the judge was like, well, that has nothing to do with this case. And he said, no, you can't ask that question to the jury members. 5:14. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is warning Republicans they'll regret re-examining the January 6 riots at the U.S. Capitol.
Donald Trump and House Republicans are now determined to whitewash that day that will always live in infamy. House Democrats will not let it happen.
Jeffries announcing yesterday he's picked California Congressman Eric Swalwell to lead the Democrats on the newly formed subcommittee. He's also chosen Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas and Florida's Jared Moskowitz to sit on the panel.
We will make sure that the American people continue to receive the unfiltered truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson can veto any of those picks that were made yesterday. In a moment, we'll go to France, where there's been a realignment of some lawmakers there. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning, Noam Laden. Started on the diamond out in Philly. The Mets dropped a 1-0 nail-biter to the first-place Phillies in the opener of a big 4-game set last night. Phillies stretched their lead in the NL East to 8 games over the Mets, pulling away in a race that seemed to tighten when New York completed a 3-game sweep of the Phillies late last month. New York stumbled since that series in Citi Field and lost their third straight game and fourth in 5 games. Rookie starter Nolan McLean, who tossed 8 scoreless innings against the Phillies in August, struck out 5, gave up 7 hits over 5 1/3 innings, and lost for the first time in 5 big league starts. Up next for the Mets, now 3 games up on just San Francisco for the third and final NL wild card. Sean Manaea will get the start in tonight's game 2 of 4 at Philadelphia. First pitch there is scheduled for 6:45 p.m. As for the Yankees, they were off yesterday ahead of opening a 3-game series tonight at home against the AL Central leading Detroit Tigers. Will Warren gets the start for what will be a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx. Heading in, the Yanks sit just 2 games back of Toronto for first place in the division and hold a 1-game lead over the Red Sox for the AL's first wild card spot. Went to the gridiron now to Chicago last night, Monday Night Football, your first installment of the 2025 NFL regular season. The Vikings and J.J. McCarthy over the Bears, 27-24. McCarthy, I believe, big comeback there in the fourth quarter. 21, I'm not sure if they were unanswered points, but 21 points out of J.J. McCarthy, bringing the Vikings all the way back in that final frame. And news at a Giants camp, Russell Wilson will remain the New York Giants starting quarterback for Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys. Coach Brian Daboll said yesterday Daboll had been non-committal on Wilson retaining the job after his performance in Sunday's 21-6 loss to Washington when the Giants didn't score a touchdown. Daboll said on his video conference call with reporters that there was never a serious decision to make, despite rookie Jackson Dart waiting in the wings.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to give him at least a couple games.
Of course.
I mean, one could just be a terrible outing. I mean, I think the whole season will be a terrible outing.
Of course, but he makes it news when he comes out in the post-game press conference and says he's non-committal on it.
Yeah,
so if there was
stupid of him.
Right, if there's no decision to make, then just say it right after the game.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to go with Wilson for another couple weeks. What's the big deal? Everybody's expecting it anyways.
And nobody expects them to win more than that.
Right.
After that outing on Sunday.
Right.
They win 5 games, that'll be a lot.
Right. Now, granted, you would have liked to see him score a touchdown or 2 on offense, but, whatever. It's Russell Wilson. You got to give him more of a look than that. That is your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Elk on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. Head overseas to France. The Prime Minister of France expected to resign after losing a confidence vote.
Francois Bayrou will formally tender his resignation to President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday. And the president has a few options. He can appoint a new prime minister, call a snap general election, or he can himself resign, although he has ruled that out. The challenge for President Macron is, can he find a prime minister who can find a majority in parliament to pass a budget before the end of the year? Ross Cullen, Paris.
Let's go from France down to Washington, D.C. as there's changing federal guidelines for the COVID vaccine. Some states are taking vaccine decisions into their own hands. Correspondent Marissa Pera reports one of those states is Florida. We told you about this last week, where the state surgeon general is looking to eliminate all vaccine mandates.
Now, we did get some clarification from the Florida Department of Health, who said that any changes would require at least 3 months to take effect. And some vaccination mandates are actually a part of Florida statute. And so that would require approval and changes through the Florida legislature.
Now, the other states making some decisions in West Virginia and a number of other states, people 65 and older can still get a COVID shot upon request, but younger people without underlying health conditions will need a prescription from a doctor.
Back to school is being met with COVID vaccine confusion overall. We saw the FDA narrow the COVID guidelines on a federal level, but now we're seeing states scramble to come up with their own rules.
Yeah, in Maryland, the governor there, they signed a law ensuring that residents can continue to receive vaccines at provider offices and pharmacies across the state there. Other states are just trying to sort of navigate their way through whether they're going to do the same thing or whether you'll need a prescription to get that shot this winter. 522, a House task force on government transparency set to hold a hearing today on unidentified flying objects.
The chair of the task force on the declassification of federal secrets issued a statement saying the American people deserve maximum transparency from the federal government on sightings, acquisitions, and examinations of UAPs and whether they pose a potential threat to American safety. Witness testimony is expected from Air Force and Navy veterans who have all previously discussed witnessing aerial phenomenon, as well as journalist George Knapp. Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna of Florida has said she expects the hearing will have massive implications around the country. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
They say that every time. Massive implications when they do these unidentified flying object hearings, and then it ends up being a lot of nothing, but maybe today will be a little different. 522. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett says her fellow justices are not partisan.
Well, there's a disconnect between what happens inside the court and what people think happens inside the court.
Conservative was on Fox News last night. She says that justices don't represent the blue team or the red team. Their job is only to interpret the law. She also notes in how they all get along pretty well on a personal level.
I often ask new law clerks, what surprised you most when you started? And one of the most common answers is the difference between what's happening on the inside and what people think is happening on the inside.
Barrett has been in the conservative majority in landmark decisions, including overturning Roe v. Wade. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett says her fellow justices so far have been cordial and thoughtful towards her. 523. Apple expected to unveil the thinnest iPhone ever at its hardware event that's happening later today.
Along with iPhone 17, Apple is set to release the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max. Announcements are also expected on updates for the Apple Watch and AirPods. The iPhone 17 will likely be priced around $800. The Pro model could cost around $1,050. And you can look for the Pro Max to come with a price tag of $1,250. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Okay, I'm guessing maybe you saw this video that's gone viral. It was a home run that was hit at a Marlins game in Florida. The Phillies were playing the Marlins, and all these people ran to go get the baseball, and this father came up with the ball. You know, it was one of those scrums where there's like 5 people grabbing the ball. He comes out of the scrum with the ball in his hand. He goes over and hands it to his young son, who's all excited to have the baseball. And all of a sudden, this woman comes flying towards him and says, "That's my ball." And you can see there's this animated conversation going on between the dad and this, what looks to be kind of a crazed woman. And so the father then, in that moment, decides to give the ball to the woman. He takes the ball back from his son and he hands it to the woman. And he's now explaining why he did that.
Very vulgar, screaming right in my ear that, you know, a lot of bad words, and then that's my ball, that was her section. And
he said he just wanted to defuse the situation because he saw that it might just get out of hand. Now, the Marlins were told about what took place in the stands. I mean, you could see it on TV. And so they invited the family back into the dugout after the game. And that young boy who had the ball taken from him, he was given a bat by the Phillies' Harrison Bader. So in the end, he did okay.
I think the world could use a little extra de-escalation. Everything's so tense. The world is pretty crazy, and I don't want to do anything like that in front of my son or on camera.
Yeah, so they're calling this woman the Phillies Karen because she was in a Phillies outfit. At least I haven't seen anything from her. She's been awfully quiet.
I was really, really excited because that was the first home run ball we've ever gotten.
Yeah, that was Lincoln who had the ball snatched from his hands from his dad, and his dad handed it over to that woman. 526. Money's being raised and history's being made as two men circle the Atlantic in a single-engine plane. They say they're doing it all to raise money to end polio. Peter Tehan, he's from Iowa, says making the fundraising journey in a small Cessna is not easy.
Go from Goose Bay, Canada, 9 hours nonstop over to Reykjavik, Iceland. You're stuck in your seat for 9 hours. You can't get up. You can't move around.
72-year-old being joined by co-pilot Ed Galkin, an 89-year-old who's from New Jersey. The friends circumnavigated the globe in a single-engine plane back in 2023, and they raised about $2 million. During this trip, they're making history by becoming the oldest pilots ever to fly a plane across the Atlantic.
Ed Galkin, my fellow pilot, became the oldest pilot in aviation history, the oldest pilot to fly a plane across the Atlantic at 89 and a half years old.
I don't know that I'd want to be in a plane by the oldest pilot ever to circumnavigate the Earth, but okay.
I had to crawl into the back of the plane, go out of my seat, over luggage, over everything else to get to where the fuel was.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, September 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. Just another beauty of a day on the way. High 72. Tonight and overnight, some clouds roll in, low 60, and then Wednesday will be cloudy most of the day, just a small chance of a pop-up shower, the high 69. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 56 and clear in Larchmont up in Westchester County, 53 and clear in Clark over in New Jersey, and it's 56 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 538. Let's talk about a 1,000-foot-long crack has closed a street in Woodbridge, New Jersey that runs between key highways, as you heard from Joe.
Officials say some work at a nearby warehouse may have caused what looks like a small fault line that's opened on Smith Street in Woodbridge near its border with Perth Amboy. And officials say it'll take months to fix. That part of Smith Street runs between the Route 9 and Garden State Parkway bridges and the bridge on Route 35, all of which cross the Raritan River. All traffic is being detoured. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
Let's bring it back here into the city, out to Belrose, Queens, and what could be a murder investigation. This is a wild story as we're learning more information. Police investigating after the bodies of a man and woman were discovered inside a home in Queens following a fire yesterday afternoon. Right away, they thought this fire was suspicious. The fire started about 3:30 in the afternoon on 254th Street, right near 87th Drive. Firefighters who got it out in less than an hour found the bodies of a 77-year-old man and a 78-year-old woman who had raised their family in this neighborhood and lived there for 40 years. Now, sources say the man and woman appeared to have been set on fire maybe before the fire was set. And neighbors who know this family are just completely shocked.
The nicest neighbors you could ever ask for. My daughter just brought up, remember when they came out, when the essential workers at 7 o'clock, during COVID, they were out with us, and it was, he would always wave to us. Just this past weekend, he waved to us, and it's sad.
Now, Eyewitness News is reporting that the man's remains were found tied to a pole in the basement, and the woman was found somewhere else in the house. Neighbors say the victims had been there for 40 years. Just the two of them left as their kids had moved on. Detectives were seen yesterday going to homes on the block looking for doorbell camera video or any surveillance cameras that their neighbors might have that could offer clues into their investigation.
I don't have much to show you on the camera, but if any little bit will help. So it didn't, but it goes off at 5 a.m. But you can tell that there was more to it than just a fire they were looking for.
Arson investigators, NYPD detectives looking to determine how, why, and who would attack a couple in this way.
I mean, that would be, in the middle of the day, that would be very shocking. We've lived here for almost 27 years, and never had an incident.
Yeah, so the NYPD has not released the victims' names as this investigation continues. The neighbors have, but we'll hold off giving those names out till we have confirmation from the NYPD. But what we have heard, this new information this morning, is they are looking for a man, but they didn't tell us who it was. Search is on for some individual. So, of course, as more information comes in on what's just a horrible crime, or seems to be a horrible crime out of Queens, we'll pass that on to you. 541. Just days after his dramatic news conference on Friday announcing that he's staying in the race, Mayor Adams was on Channel 7 yesterday for a one-on-one interview. He says he wants voters to know that he's serious about getting reelected, and he insists there's still time to win the race. Now, you remember last week all the talk was that the White House was going to offer Mayor Adams a job as ambassador to Saudi Arabia if he dropped out of the race. Now, he says that's not going to happen. He denies he was pressured to suspend his campaign or that he would consider a position in the Trump administration.
So you're not going to Saudi Arabia?
No, I'm not. I'm staying here to be the mayor of the city of New York.
Were you being pressured to step down?
No, because people know me. You're not going to pressure me when I know I'm doing right for New Yorkers.
Now, he said he can't make it any clearer that he wants to be the mayor of New York. He blasted his opponents, doubled down on his re-election campaign. That, as he gave that interview to Eyewitness News yesterday, Andrew Cuomo was on CNBC. And he was telling the anchor on CNBC that he doesn't see the mayor as a factor in the race any longer at all.
We'll see what happens with Eric Adams, but in reality for voters, there are going to be two viable candidates who can win. It's going to be me and Mamdani. And you could not have a more stark choice.
Now, Mayor Adams and Andrew Cuomo, it's clear they really don't like each other. And they're not afraid to talk about each other in just a god-awful way. So Adams dismissed Cuomo's claims that he's not a viable candidate and then went after Cuomo for failing to beat Zohran Mamdani during the spring primary.
Are you afraid people are going to blame you?
No, I think they're going to blame Andrew. Andrew hit the first shot, $35 million he put out. He was too arrogant and lazy to go out and campaign. I think that he thought that you win the mayor of New York City by walking the streets of the Hamptons and not Harlem. So I think he's the one that created this scenario.
And then Mamdani was out yesterday campaigning. He says his goal, he's of course leading the pack of these four candidates who want to be the next mayor, is to make this city more affordable. And he says he does have a plan that will work.
They are simply at peace with a status quo that we know is broken for so many. And I am confident in our ability to actually deliver a new chapter.
Republican and independent candidate Curtis Sliwa, his campaign releasing their first campaign commercial of the season. And it doesn't star Curtis, which might be a great move. Instead, it stars his wife, Nancy.
They tell us New York is safe, but women know better. Rapes are up 40%. Felony assaults are at an all-time high. Domestic violence is driving mothers and their children into shelters. Every day, women risk harassment and assault just going to school, to work, just living our lives. Curtis and I have always fought for women and will keep defending them because no one should have to choose between supporting their family and protecting their life.
The commercial ends with Curtis Sliwa in the spot with a subway train rolling by him. Very appropriate as the guy who protected people on the subway for so many years and continues to with the Guardian Angels. It is interesting that he chose his wife to be in the spot because, well, Andrew Cuomo is not married. We never see Mayor Adams' girlfriend. Have you ever seen her? And Mamdani, who's married, we've never seen his wife. So why not use Nancy? I think that's a smart move on their part. All right, in a moment, we're going to tell you why President Trump is applauding West Point for canceling a ceremony that would have honored Tom Hanks. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Elliott.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start on the diamond in Philadelphia. The Mets dropped a 1-0 nail-biter. The first-place Phillies in the opener of a big four-game set last night. The Phils stretched their lead in the NL East to 8 games over the Mets, pulling away in a race that seemed to tighten when New York completed a 3-game sweep of Philadelphia late last month. New York stumbled since that series at Citi Field and lost their third straight game. And fourth in 5 games, rookie starter Nolan McLean, who tossed 8 scoreless innings against the Phillies in August, struck out 5, gave up 7 hits over 5 1/3 innings, and lost for the first time in 5 big league starts. Up next for the Mets, now 3 games up on just San Francisco for the third and final NL wildcard. Sean Manaea will get the start in tonight's Game 2 of 4 at Philly. First pitch there is scheduled for 6:45. As for the Yankees, they were off yesterday ahead of opening a 3-game series tonight at home against the AL Central leading Detroit Tigers. Will Warren gets the ball to start for what will be a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx. Heading in, the Yanks sit just 2 games back of Toronto for first place in the division and hold a 1-game lead over the Red Sox for the AL's first wild card spot. And to the gridiron, last night from Chicago, first installment of Monday Night Football this regular season, and the Vikings besting the Bears 27-24. J.J. McCarthy, and second-year quarterback for Minnesota, coming out, leading them to a big fourth-quarter comeback, 21 unanswered points, I believe, there. And news at a Giants camp, Russell Wilson will remain the Giants starting quarterback for Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys. Coach Brian Daboll said yesterday. Daboll had been non-committal on Wilson retaining the job after his performance in Sunday's 21-6 loss to Washington, and when the Giants didn't score a touchdown. Daboll said on his video conference call with reporters that there was never a serious decision to make, despite rookie Jackson Dart waiting in the wings. He was just teasing us all normally.
Yeah, well, how does that make Russell Wilson feel?
Probably not great.
Yeah.
Because if he goes out and plays, another shaky game this weekend, all of a sudden you got head coach Brian Daboll, who's vouched for you in the past, coming up to the reporters at the end of the game saying, well, I'm non-committal now.
Well, after 2 games, he's got 2 other quarterbacks, so, why not try another one?
Well, if you're non-committal after week 1, I mean, imagine what you'd be after week 2 if that type of performance persists out of Wilson in the offense. But it's a lot on the offensive line. I mean,
he also been terrible.
Yeah, Sid was saying it yesterday. So what? You stick Jackson Dart in there, now he's running for his life.
Wilson was on the turf the entire game.
Exactly.
The entire game.
So, quarterback needs some time back there. That's your sports gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
5:49. President Trump applauding West Point's decision to cancel a ceremony that would have honored actor and veterans advocate Tom Hanks.
The Oscar winner has played soldiers in movies such as Saving Private Ryan and Forrest Gump. He was set to receive the Sylvanus Thayer Award on September 25th, given to a civilian who exemplifies duty, honor, and country. But President Trump is no fan of Hanks, taking to Truth Social after West Point canceled the ceremony, writing, "We don't need woke recipients getting our cherished American awards." Hanks has publicly supported Democrats, including Barack Obama and Joe Biden. The military academy says its decision will allow West Point to focus on its core mission of preparing cadets to lead. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
You can't outsmart kids. Less than a week into the new academic year, some New York City public school students already testing the limits of the new cell phone ban. Students said the policy, which also restricts other electronic devices, has been tough to adjust to.
I do miss my device, but it's also I'm very studious, so I don't mind not having something to distract me.
The bigger thing was all electronic devices in total, because before we were able to bring in our AirPods.
Now, most students are following the rules, but there's always some who figure out a way around it. And this one is, semi-brilliant. Reports from principals suggest that some students are bringing in a burner phone because you have to hand in a phone at the beginning of the day that's locked into a pouch, and that's it. So either they're bringing a phone that doesn't work at all, or it's some sort of burner phone, and then they get to keep their phone on them, their real one, during the course of the school day. Now, the school's chancellor says she was ready for something like this to happen. She's not surprised students are doing it.
What I know is to always expect young people to try to work around us.
Yeah.
Am I right, young people? You're always going to find a way.
Mayor Adams brushing off concerns, framing it as creativity on the part of youth culture.
This is all part of their creative spirit and energy. We did it. Let's not act like when we were in school, we didn't have all our little tricks on how we got around things. This is all a part of creativity.
Now, the way it's supposed to work, and we don't know if they're enforcing it, is that students get a number of warnings if they're caught with their phone, and then potential suspension if it happens too many times. Have not heard word that anybody has been suspended yet, but of course it's only day 4 of the school year because it just started last week. Meanwhile, many New York City students getting free laptops to help close the digital divide. The mayor says 350,000 students will be getting Chromebooks with internet access and educational programming learning, and it'll help them as they make their way towards graduation. They'll be able to keep that Chromebook for a number of years.
And we cannot allow that access to be lacking in our classrooms. It limits not only how you have your creative energy, but it limits opportunities.
So families who don't have the money to get these laptops, working class families, will get the outdated equipment they may have had before. They'll be able to replace it with these new laptops.
Our proactive data-driven rollout strategy is closing the gap in device access across all public school systems. The Chromebooks are distributed in areas where the need is the greatest.
Yeah, and yesterday they already began handing out some of those laptops. 5:52, a postal worker on Long Island is accused of stealing mail.
Authorities say they responded to the post office on 120 Wantagh Avenue after receiving complaints last Thursday afternoon that an employee had parcels of mail in his car that did not belong to him. Cops searched 40-year-old Daniel Schultz's vehicle and found mail in the back seat. Schultz was arrested without incident, and during a search, police discovered he was in possession of a white powdery substance believed to be cocaine. Schultz is facing a slew of charges. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:53. A rookie cop and a neighbor in New Jersey being hailed as heroes for getting people out to safety during a 2-alarm fire in Clifton over the weekend. Neighbors say police officer Eddie Maldonado deserves special recognition for getting a family of 7 out of this house as the house was in flames.
He was like a hero. I was so proud of him. He's a rookie, and he kept everybody safe, and really extraordinary.
Yeah, good job done by Eddie Maldonado. Another neighbor and Maldonado started yelling, "Get out, get out, get out," as they pounded on the door of this home on DeMott Avenue on Saturday night. They were there before the firefighters arrived. All 7 members of this family inside got out to safety. And they do note that if they hadn't been there, the scenario could have been a lot worse because the neighbor's home ended up potentially was really engulfed in flames by the time firefighters arrived on the scene. So good job done, Eddie Maldonado. We don't know the name of that neighbor, but the neighbor also deserves credit for what he did over the weekend. WABC News Time 5:54. New Yorkers reacting to reports that President Trump wants to take over the 9/11 Memorial Museum in Lower Manhattan. Even though 9/11 families have been asking the federal government to make the Memorial Museum a national park, other New Yorkers are not happy with this idea.
I think it's crazy. I think a lot of people lost their lives, and I think there should be some type of respect left for them.
He wants to take over everything.
I don't know. He wants to be in control of every little thing. He wants to micromanage every little part of America.
Reports come just days after the New York Post reported the CEO of the nonprofit 9/11 Memorial Museum allegedly made more than $775,000 last year. President Trump campaigned on making Ground Zero at the World Trade Center a national monument. 5:55. A 24-year-old, his name is Miguel Marchese. He was duped out of a $6,400 deposit for an apartment in Hell's Kitchen that turned out to be a scheme in the neighborhood. Marchese moved to New York City with, as he described, 2 suitcases to pursue his dream just a few months ago. And he found an apartment on Facebook Marketplace, which I would say was probably his first mistake. But then he justified the fact that the person who was trying to rent it to him was also on Instagram and also had all this what looked to be legal documentation that suggested he was the owner of the apartment. So he said, "Wow, okay, it is a 2-bedroom apartment for $3,200. That probably should have set off alarms as well." But he said, "Well, maybe I shouldn't pass up this deal because it's real."
I was shocked that it was listed at a really good price, to be honest. Like, I thought it was a gold mine that I just got really lucky in my search, and I reached out to him. I saw the place. I saw his Instagram. He was a real person. He ended up sending a real lease to me through DocuSign.
Okay, so he handed over $6,400, which would have been first month's rent and a security deposit. Now police know who they're looking for. His name is Nicholas Fueling. He's wanted by the NYPD for scamming multiple people with the same fake apartment listings in Hell's Kitchen. Now, the weird part of this story is Marchese, who thought he was going to be renting a 2-bedroom apartment, started looking for somebody to rent it with him so he could save money. And this woman got back to him right away and said, wait a minute, I have a lease for that same very apartment.
She reached out to me and she was like, no, I just signed that lease and paid him the security deposit and first month's rent a few days ago. And she was hopeful in the beginning that there was a mix-up, but I knew immediately that I was like, no, like, we've been scammed.
Yeah, and he was right. They had been scammed. So there are wanted posters of this guy all over Hell's Kitchen. And the thought is from the NYPD that at least 11 victims, and that means there might be more who have not come to police, have been conned out of $50,000 by this jerk. And here's this guy, Marchese, who's new to town, is now living on the floor of a friend's apartment while he tries to raise more money to find another place.
It takes a certain type of human being to psychologically play with people.
You're right.
To go to such sophisticated memes to deceive them.
Yeah, they got to catch up with this creep.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac Extra Value Meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.
Bundle and save with Expedia. You were made to follow your favorite band, and from the front row, we were made to quietly save you more. Expedia. Made to travel. Savings vary and subject to availability. Flight inclusive packages are ATOL protected.